When we think of the Colosseum, the first thing that comes to mind is gladiators. Wild beasts and screaming crowds. But what few know is that the Colosseum was not just a fighting arena, but a carefully designed stage to amaze, manipulate emotions, and leave the viewer breathless. With a capacity of between 50,000 and 80,000 people, the Colosseum was not only the largest amphitheater in the Roman Empire, but the epicenter of public entertainment. A place where blood mingled with spectacle, and where each event was planned as a theatrical performance with its own script, set in effects. The Colosseum was, literally, the Hollywood of ancient Rome, but with one important difference: what happened there wasn't fiction. It was real. And that made it even more impressive. The shows, called Munera, could last for days. They were divided into different acts. In the morning, exotic animal fights, hunters facing lions, elephants, or hippos. At noon, public executions, often represented as mythological scenes. And in the afternoon, the main event, gladiatorial combats, some to the death, others staged with choreography as complex as a dance. But here's the funny thing: even though the Colosseum was designed for brutality, it was also a masterpiece of architecture and engineering. It wasn't simply a battlefield, but a space designed to generate awe, excitement, and imperial propaganda. Everything, absolutely everything, was calculated to impress. The acoustics allowed the roars of the audience to be felt like a wave. The arrangement of the stands separated by social class, making it clear who was who. And the emperor himself, from his imperial box, was the center of the spectacle, not only as a spectator, but as a figure of absolute power. If you think elevators are a modern invention, the Romans would make you laugh. The Colosseum concealed a mechanical system so ingenious it seemed like something out of a steampunk movie: elevators, trapdoors, moving platforms, all hidden beneath the sand. Beneath the Colosseum was the hypogeum, an underground network of passageways, cages, pulleys, compartments and tunnels where the rail show took place. What the public saw on the surface was just the tip of the iceberg. The shocking, and often the deadly, emerged from below, as if by magic. The hypogeum had more than 30 lifting platforms operated by a system of pulleys, ropes, and counterweights operated by dozens of slaves. These elevators were capable of lifting wild beasts, gladiators, stages, and even entire trees, suddenly appearing in the middle of the arena. Imagine watching a fight and suddenly the ground opens up and a roaring lion emerges. You didn't know where he would appear, or when. That uncertainty was part of the show. And it wasn't just about going up and down. Many of these mechanisms were synchronized to generate surprise effects. Some platforms were opened with spring mechanisms or released with invisible latches. Mobile sets were set up: rocks, fake columns, camouflage traps. There were corridors through which animals entered or escaped, creating the illusion that the Colosseum was a wild environment in constant transformation. The most impressive thing? All of this worked without electricity, without modern motors, only with human power and precise engineering. Many of these mechanisms have been reconstructed in recent years by archaeologists and engineers. And they found that it was possible. The elevators could lift up to 300 kilos in a matter of seconds, with smooth and controlled movements. Long before cinema, fireworks, or surround sound, the Romans knew how to put on a spectacular show. The Colosseum not only offered blood and violence, it also mastered the art of special effects. And some were so ingenious that they still amaze engineers and historians today. For example, evidence has been found that organizers used sound effects to increase the drama. Drums, trumpets, choirs, and even bronze plates were used, which, when struck, produced metallic crashes as if thunder had fallen on the sand. ideal for making a sudden appearance, say a roaring lion, sound even more terrifying. And speaking of surprises, the sets were also mobile. Thanks to rotating platforms and pulley systems, the sets could be changed in a matter of minutes. A forest, a temple, a cave. All to recreate a mythical scene or a famous story. The Colosseum was a theater of total action. But they didn't stop there. Some effects were worthy of an illusionist's trick. Hidden trapdoors that opened under the feet of the participants. Fake rocks that exploded or released smoke. Apparitions from the ground synchronized with music and natural lights. Even mirrors and shiny fabrics were used to reflect sunlight and create visual sparkles that amazed attendees. All this without modern technology, just with creativity, architecture, and engineering. And if the spectacle was worth it, they also included a scent, flowers, incense, or, in some cases, even the smell of animals to reinforce the sensory experience. A kind of old version of immersive reality. The objective was clear: to amaze, to excite, to manipulate. To make the audience not only see the fight, but also experience a story, feel the fear, the tension, the glory. It was entertainment with an imperial purpose. You read that right. The Colosseum, that colossus of stone and blood, wasn't just used for gladiatorial combat and beast hunts. It was also the scene of something that sounds impossible: naval battles recreated in the heart of Rome, known as Naval. Now here comes the big question. Did they really fill the Colosseum with water to simulate ship combat? The answer is complex. There are ancient sources that mention this type of spectacle. Especially during the early years of the Colosseum, under the reign of Emperor Titus, who inaugurated it in 80 AD. It is said that, to impress the public from the first day, naval battles were held with real ships. But how did they do it? The Colosseum didn't have a permanent pool, but it did have an advanced pipeline system that could bring water from nearby aqueducts. It is believed that, at least in its early decades, the arena floor was not completely excavated as we see it today, which would have allowed for temporary flooding. The ships used were not large war triremes, but small vessels adapted to maneuver in a limited space. These performances recreated famous battles or simply featured fights between prisoners who had to fight to the death on water. A mix of spectacle and public execution, with splashes. However, over time, the Namakis stopped being held in the Colosseum. When the hypogeum, the underground structure with elevators and tunnels, was built, it became impossible to flood the arena. From then on, naval battles took place in artificial lakes built for that purpose, such as the one ordered by Emperor Augustus to be built on the Campus Martius. Even so, the idea of a naval battle inside the Colosseum remained etched in the collective memory as the height of Roman spectacle. Fire, water, screams, clashing wood, swords, all under the gaze of thousands of people who didn't know if they were watching a fight or a masterpiece of stagecraft. In ancient Rome, the Colosseum was not just for entertainment. It was a carefully designed political tool to control, distract, and manipulate the masses. Every fight, every roar, every surprise appearance from underground had a deeper purpose: to reinforce the emperor's power. From the moment the spectators crossed the arches of the amphitheater, it was clear who was in charge. The emperor was at the center of the show, in an elevated box with a perfect view. He was the only one with the absolute right to decide the life or death of a gladiator. His thumb could mean glory or execution, and the people knew it. But beyond the drama, the games were a political message. You see this impressive spectacle, thanks to the emperor. You have bread, entertainment, and order, thanks to Rome. It was the classic bread in circuses, panem et circenses, a formula that guaranteed social peace in exchange for mass distraction. The shows also served as direct propaganda. The fights could be loaded with symbolism. A defeated prisoner in the arena represented Rome's victory over its enemies. A public execution dramatized as an ancient myth showed the punishment for traitors or rebels. And the grandiose sets, with special effects and exotic animals, reinforced the idea that Rome dominated the entire world. The Colosseum was also a political showcase. Emperors who offered the best games were fondly remembered. Those who canceled them were hated. Some even lost the favor of the people for not investing in proper entertainment. And the most impressive thing is that it worked. For centuries, the Colosseum was the center of Roman social control. A blend of brutality, theatrical magic, and emotional manipulation, with an efficiency that not even modern governments have fully matched.